Hello, welcome to the third week of the ongoing Dawn of Andromeda review. I'm Predicted Cyborg. I'm still playing this game. I'm still reviewing it. So I've had a little bit more time with the game this week and explored the eras a bit more. I sort of started doing that last week, but I've kind of explored them a little bit more. And obviously last week I started off with the first one at the beginning of the story. As I said last week, the eras kind of tell a chronological story of the races in the Andromeda Galaxy. You have the Terrans, who are obviously the humans. You have all these other races that have been added into the game. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses. And as the eras go along, a story is told, and not all the races actually make it to the end. Spoiler alert. As I said last week, there are win conditions for each race, and the first one started off with just having to survive 2 years within the simulation of the galaxy, but I've actually checked out some of the others, and there are different win conditions. You have the survival ones, but mostly it's to do with defeating another particular race or faction in the setting of the game. This seems to be the most common win condition, victory condition within the eras, but of course there are others. The other more common one being to get a certain level up the tech tree to research a certain particular project to do with the story. Again, you also have the survive for a certain number of years condition, and another one is to have a diplomatic victory. There is one particular era that requires certain races to have a diplomatic victory to win that particular era against the AI opponents, some of whom also have a diplomatic victory condition, but at least one of them I think actually has a survival victory condition instead of the diplomatic victory. Or maybe that's another era. I know that basically the victory conditions and the stories for each particular faction and race in this game, from era to era, it slightly varies. The little story blurb at the beginning when you start playing as that race kind of changes based on which era you are, how far along the chronological timeline, and yeah, that kind of makes sense really, because as I say, the eras, the scenario, like gameplay in this particular game, does kind of tell a little bit of a story, which is kind of cool actually. I wasn't really expecting this to be a story element within this game. I generally tend to play these strategy games just to, learn how to play them, dominate, win the game, etc. So having a story-based element to it is actually a very nice surprise. And I think in a way it does kind of make sense, because a single-player campaign would actually fit in very well with this genre. I just happen to be more familiar with strategy games that don't actually have that particular element in there, so it is a nice surprise. And even though, as I say, I did actually sort of notice this last week, I've gone more into depth this week, and I've actually sort of read through, and I've played some more of the eras, so this is why it's kind of reflecting more on me this week than it did last week. One thing that actually differs the later eras as well from the first one is you actually go in, and later eras will actually have the entire sort of galaxy map unlocked. This means that you can see where minor races are, stuff to mine, things of interest, so it actually helps you plan where you're going to go next. See colonizable planets that are nearby, helps you extend your area without really having to go and explore and find it all first. I kind of missed that little bit of exploration, but I guess in a way having it unlocked for the later eras, given that it's being a story and the things going on, it kind of makes sense, so I can forgive it for that, even if I do miss the exploration element myself, just a little bit. One strange thing I did notice though, upon actually viewing the entire galaxy map through this, sometimes when these maps generate, they will generate systems that are completely cut off from the others. The way that the generation works is, just because a system is near another doesn't mean that there's going to be a connection, and sometimes you have these systems that are completely cut off from the rest of them. I'm not entirely sure if there is actually a way you can reach them by researching something maybe, but it's just something I noticed and kind of amused me a little bit, because, hey, if this is something that's not meant to be happening, then it's an example of how sometimes random generation and procedural generation can go a little bit weird. Speaking of last week, I did also sort of say last week that I was going to try and get to end game content to try and win a game. I have tried my best, but my god, this game, as I've said before, it is a very big game. There's a lot to keep an eye on, a lot to manage and everything. The pause button is very useful for helping with that, I must say. It's still very useful. And it just seems that, try as I might, I really just can't find any way to get a satisfactory end condition. Like, I lose games, I get so far along and I realise I'm going to lose a game and I try and start over again. So I've seen some near endgame content, but I haven't actually managed to get to victory condition yet. Yeah, this game is large, this game is difficult. So, if you enjoy challenging games, then this is probably going to be one you might look into. But, be warned, you come into this game and there is a fair learning curve. I would actually go and see if you can find tutorial videos on YouTube, or maybe walkthroughs, or, little bits of advice before you come in and play the game to help you understand it. Because the tutorial will teach you the basic stuff, but this is a strategy game, so, the nuances of it, the things you can and can't do, there's going to be a lot of trial and error while you learn this game, and that is kind of what makes it so challenging and so difficult. It's only really now that I've spent quite a bit of time with it and actually started to press some buttons and try out new things, I'm actually beginning to kind of get into the flow of it, kind of get into the rhythm, kind of know what I'm doing, and I've spent quite a few hours with this game already for these reviews, so, maybe it is just me. I will admit that I'm not the best gamer in the world. It does take me a while to pick up certain things, and there are other people in the world who are going to be absolutely brilliant at this sort of genre and will pick it up straight away. So as always, when I'm doing reviews, and this isn't the full review yet, that's coming next week, take everything I say with a little bit of pinch of salt. These are just my opinions, and I can give you an overview of the game, I can give you facts, I can tell you how things work, but my opinions are my opinions. As always, please do go in there and make up your own mind. I can't make it up for you. Just know that this game has a lot of content, a lot to learn, a lot to manage, and the tutorial will teach you the basic things, but the more complicated things, the nuances, as I said, these are things you will pick up yourself through trial and error. And because the learning process is going to take a while, this is probably one reason why this game is, as we've described, a game you could easily sink 100 hours into and still have things to do. Really is that big of a game. So as I say, next week we are going to be actually wrapping this up with the proper full review video of this game. I'm going to be taking bits that I've talked about in the last two videos and this one, putting it all together into a full review of the game to sort of say exactly what I think about it and give a full proper score. But until then, I'm the Predicted Cyborg, and you have been listening to me talk more about Dawn of Andromeda. Remember, we are a gamer radio station, so tune in to www.Sanitarium.FM to find your radio shows and your articles. Join us in our Discord if you want to come and have a chat and join our community and make use of the perks. And of course, stay tuned to this YouTube channel for more news reviews and more of the same. I'm the Predicted Cyborg, and I will see you next week.